Here we are with the RX7 race car, and we're going to use it for a little bit of charging and starting system tests today, because most all the components that you need to get to, the starter, the alternator, the battery, are readily accessible. What you can see is I have two multimeters hooked up. The first meter is our snap-on, and it's measuring 12.6 volts. But we also have the little Harbor Freight meter up, and you'll notice that it's measuring just about exactly the same amount of voltage. For both meters, we've just hooked it up to the battery posts, and we're using alligator clips to hold a steady connection for our meter to have good readings. As I've recommended before, having alligator clips on your meter leads is a great tech tip. Okay, with the multimeter still connected to the battery, set to the 0 to 20 volt range, we're going to crank it over. I would like to see over 10.5 volts while cranking. And we'll crank it for just about 15 seconds. Go ahead, Luke. Okay, after our starter draw test, you can see the battery is somewhat recovered, but it is no longer up to being fully charged. This is a great time for us to test the charging system, as the battery is slightly discharged. When we start the car, we expect the battery voltage to rise to be somewhere between 13.8 and 14.8 volts on this vehicle. Let's go ahead and start it up. So one thing I noticed is that it is charging, however, it's not charging at a rate that I would like to see. I would like to see that voltage be a little higher. What we're going to do is give it some revs to approximately 2,000 RPM. 2,000 RPM. Why don't you go to 3? Okay, so I have one lead connected to the positive terminal on the back of the alternator. The other lead's going straight to the positive post on the battery. You can see at this connection, we have over a volt of voltage drop between those 2 points. For the voltage drop ground check, we're going to switch our leads. We're going to put our positive probe now on the negative terminal of the battery. And the negative probe is going to go to the case of our alternator. And we're going to measure that graph. Again, that's over 1 volt. Let me go to a better connection on the battery. Wow. To give you an example, look at my voltage now. I'm well above 14, in between that 14.8 to 13.8. How did I get there? Instead of just testing at the battery, I have my negative lead at the battery, but I have my positive lead on the positive terminal on the back of the alternator. So that again is another way to see that voltage drop that we're seeing across the positive side, because we're going between 13.3 to 14.5. You do have to remember that this is a race car, meaning that it has an additional switch on the negative side that allows safety workers to disconnect the battery by removing the ground connection in case there's an incident.